What is going on YouTube? It's your boys Collins, and today we're back again with another tutorial. Today we're going to learn how to make this effect. We're going to come all the way over here into our project panel, right? Be sure to import all the videos. Ignore this specific folder. This folder is basically my previous project files I was working on, so just completely ignore that. But go ahead and import the sound effects that I did provide for you guys, because we're going to be using that in this specific tutorial. And then just go ahead and grab your footage, click on this, and drag it into this specific area to create a new composition down here. Once you've done that, it's going to basically bring it down here, but let me go ahead and delete it. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and focus on these eyes, and we're going to focus on putting a blur on my body. All right, so let me go ahead and change the quality from quarter to full, because what we're going to do is we're going to manually motion track my eyes. And the thing is, you guys can actually do that as well too. So if you record your video, you should be able to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in into my face. I know right now my face is looking really ugly right now, so please don't come for me. Just go ahead and hit Control or Command S on your keyboard to save the project, all right? Be sure to save the project first, and let's go ahead and start the whole entire process. What I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and right-click on the footage, right? And I want you to come all the way over here to the right panel in this area and go ahead and select Tracker. If you do not see Tracker on this specific area, just click on the footage, go up to Window, and scroll all the way down till you'll see Tracker. It's going to be right here. Click on that, and then it should be able to open it up on this specific side. Once you've done that, right, go ahead and click on My Footage. Go ahead and click on Track Motion. Once you've selected Track Motion, I want you to go ahead and click on this. It's going to create this new box. Go ahead and move this box all the way up here to where my eye is. And just go ahead and increase the outer box a little bit bigger, and then increase the, or you can keep the what's it called? You can increase or decrease the inner box like this. And then go ahead and press on this Analyze Forward button. Click on that. And then what's going to happen is it's going to perfectly track your eye. One thing I definitely highly recommend when recording your video is to keep your eyes perfectly open and to keep your body as still as possible if you really want this effect to look really cool. Again, this is a basic tutorial, so if you want the best outcome, keep your body as still as possible and try not to move too much. All right, once you've done that, what I want you to do is come down here in this space, right click in this space, go to New, and go ahead and create a new Null Object. Okay, so this Null Object is going to be your tracking data. So what you can even do is you can go ahead and click on the Null Object, come all the way over here to the right side and click on Edit Target. Go ahead and make sure it's selected to Null 2 or Null 1 for you, and then press OK. Once you've pressed OK, come over here to the side and go ahead and click on Apply, and then press OK one more time. And then now the tracking data has completely moved to our null layer, and that's what we're going to basically be using to, go ahead and apply some visual effects. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rinse and repeat the same exact process for my right eye, or in other words my left eye. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go ahead and click on the null layer, right? Just hit Control D to duplicate, press P on the keyboard, and go ahead and turn off the position. So what you can even do is at the bottom one, go ahead and press Enter and rename this to R null for right null. And then we're going to go ahead and rename this to L null for left null, if that makes sense. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the footage one more time. We're going to go ahead and click on Track Motion, and then we're going to go ahead and move this box over here to the left. And then once we have done that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reposition it like I taught you guys, and then go ahead and press Analyze Forward. And then this should perfectly track our eye perfectly. Once that is done, click on Edit Target, click on the null, and go ahead and click on the left null, and then press OK. So now if you click on the left null in this layer area and press P on the keyboard, oh, I think we made a mistake. Go ahead and go back and press Apply. Now if we go ahead and press P on the keyboard on the left null, you should see all these tracking marks per frame. Click on the right null, press P, you should see also all this tracking marks per frame. And then go ahead and close both of them up. So if you turn both of them on, you should see that it's perfectly tracking our eye perfectly. Now here's what we're going to do next. I want you to go ahead and change the left null to some color like pink. so that we know that every single effect that deals with this specific side, it's pink, if that makes sense. Hit Control S to save your progress. Now, what I want you to do is, like I said, I really want you guys to go ahead and purchase the Video Copilot Optical Flare plugin. I highly recommend doing that. It's just really going to make your process, or make the process, a bit easier for you. But if you guys don't have money for that, again, there is another way. So basically, right, if you guys basically import all your videos, you should see the red flare. All right, so this is basically an optical flare that I got from online. It's completely PNG, so you should be able to use this to create the same effect. Now, again, you can find different kinds of flares online to create the effect, but I highly recommend getting the optical flare plugin. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this effect with the optical flare plugin, and then I'll go ahead and proceed to show you guys the rest. So go ahead and come back into your composition footage to go ahead and right click on this space and go ahead and press fit to 100. Now, what I want you to do is go ahead and turn off the null layer. Right click in this space, go to new, and go ahead and click on solid. You're going to create a new solid, and you're going to call this red. Actually, call this R flare, which is going to stand for right flare. Now be sure to go ahead and drag the right flare below our L null, and go ahead and make sure you come into the effects and presets tab and search up optical flare. So for those of you guys that do have the optical flare plugin, this effect will be perfectly good for you. But if you do not, go ahead and skip to the part where I'm going to show you guys how to use the manual flare. Drag the optical flare into your right flare, layer, and go ahead and come all the way up here to the left panel and go ahead and click on options. Go ahead and turn off the glint. Go ahead and turn off everything else except for the two glows. Once you've done that, press OK. I want you to go ahead and change the render mode from on black to over original, or actually I take that back, change it to on transparent. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and click on the color and change the color to deep red. Okay, so it should be completely red, so FF0000, and go ahead and press OK. Then what I want you to do is make sure the time indicator is all the way over here at the very beginning, and what I want you to do is go ahead and click on the R flare and go ahead and come all the way to the optical flare layer in this tab. Go ahead and press P, right? Set a stopwatch on the position X and Y. Come all the way down here to the R flare. Go ahead and press U on your keyboard to bring up the keyframe properties. Click on the R null. Click on P to bring up the position. Turn off this specific keyframe and come all the way over here till you see this parent whip. Click on this parent whip and go ahead and parent it into your position. Once you have done that, it's going to perfectly track with your null, and it's going to completely stick perfectly well with your eye, if that makes sense. Now feel free to adjust the brightness, you know what I'm saying, of the of this specific eye glow. You can leave it at 40, you can leave it at 50, but for me I'm going to leave it at 50 because 50 seems suitable to me. That's what I'm going to do. Now once you've done that, right, this is how it would perfectly look. Go ahead and click on the R flare and go ahead and come all the way over here and go ahead and click on the motion blur icon to add a little bit of motion blur. So the part where I move, there's a bit of a small tint of a motion blur in our eye. That's exactly what we're looking for. Hit Control S to basically save your current progress. Now go ahead and click on the R flare, hit Control D to duplicate it, change this color to pink, and rename this to L flare, which means left flare. And again, we're going to repeat the same exact process. We're going to make sure the time indicator is all the way over here at the very beginning. Click on the L flare, press come all the way over here at the top where it's optical flare. Go ahead and set a stopwatch on position. Press U on the keyboard to bring up the layer. Go ahead and click on the L null. Press P on the keyboard to bring up the position settings. To turn off the keyframe off of the L layer. Click on the parent whip down here and go ahead and make sure it matches perfectly with the position. Now we're getting somewhere. You see what we just did, y'all? That's exactly how you do this. Again, it's pretty easy, the same exact process, and as you can see, we are literally done with the very first part of this specific tutorial. Now let's go ahead and move on to the second part of this tutorial. Hit Control S to save your progress. Now for the second part of this tutorial, what I want you to do is I want you to right click on this space, go to new, and go ahead and click on adjustment layer. Now Once you've clicked on adjustment layer, what I want you to do is I want you to come over here to the effects and presets tab and search up fast box blur. Click on fast box blur, drag it into this specific layer, and go ahead and rename this specific layer by pressing enter. Click on it and press enter and rename this to blur. Perfect. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and click on the fast box or the blur layer. Go ahead and turn it off. And what I want you to do is I want you to zoom out and make sure the quality is set to full. Go ahead and click on the pen tool. Once you've clicked on the pen tool, be sure to click on the blur layer one more time and then begin to draw a rough mask around your subject. Now again, it does not have to be perfect, but just good enough. Okay? So just a rough mask around your subject, and just close the mask once you are done. Go ahead and press M on the keyboard, set a keyframe on the mask path, move this time indicator a few frames forward, and just basically right click on the selection tool and just basically readjust the mask so that it moves kind of like symmetric with your subject's body, if that makes sense. So just reposition the edge points to get the same look. You can go ahead and click down here, press on the mask, reposition the whole thing. You can always do this. You can repeat the same exact process. And just do it so that it matches our subject's body throughout. And like I said, it does not have to be perfect. Okay? It doesn't. But it just needs to be good enough, if that makes sense. All right. Now that we have done doing that, here's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and just come all the way over here to the beginning keyframe. Let me go ahead and readjust this a bit. I did make a mistake, so I do apologize for that. There we go. We're going to go ahead and hit Control S to save our current progress. And then go ahead and turn on the blur layer. Now we're going to come all the way over here to the blur dimensions. Click on this horizontal and vertical and change it to horizontal. Now what I want you to do is I want you to crank this up to like around, well, it depends on how much blur you want. For me, I'm going to crank it up to 26. Then I'm going to click on the blur layer, press F on the keyboard, and I'm going to feather out the edges a bit. So feather it out to like 164, and then that should be good. Now here's what we're going to do next. We're going to come all over here to the blur layer, and we're going to go ahead and hold Alt on the keyboard and go ahead and set a keyframe on iterations. Go ahead and set a keyframe on iterations. And then what I want you to go ahead and do is type in, remember to hold Alt, okay? Hold Alt on your keyboard or Option if you're using a Mac, and then come all the way up here and click this iterations. Be sure to do that. Go ahead and type in this expression, wiggle. Oh, I do apologize. Type in this expression, wiggle, open bracket, and you should see it if you have the new updated Adobe After Effects 2023. You should see that. Go ahead and click on wiggle, double click this space, and go ahead and type in 10, 5, and then go ahead and close this out. So now, if I was to change the quality from full to quarter and press play, you see what we just did? We just created this simple blur effect. It didn't take that long, but we was able to do it, right? So if let's say you change the quality back to full and then you press play. Right? That's pretty cool, right? Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the blur layer, hit Control D to duplicate the blur layer 2 times. This time around in the second layer, I'm going to go ahead and increase this a bit to like maybe like 50. Press T on the keyboard to bring up the opacity. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and reduce the opacity to like 55, right? Drag this blur under our flare layers, right? Under our eyeball flare layers. And then go ahead and press play. Now feel free to adjust this as much as you can. Feel free to play around with the wiggle, the speed of the wiggle. Feel free to do whatever you please. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that's going to make you happy, feel free to play around with it as much as you can. All right? If you definitely want to see where you can update the wiggle information, just click on this arrow go ahead and come to the effects, go ahead and click on fast blur, go ahead and click on iterations, and go ahead and just update this a bit. If you want to make this a bit more with more wiggle, you can change this to 1010 and then press play. And then what you can even do is click on the blur layer, double click M or triple click M, and then go ahead and increase the mask expansion a bit. You see what we just did? Hit Control S to basically save your project. And like I said, guys, this is completely easy. You see what we just did? That's exactly how you do it. Now the last part you got to do is just basically come all over here to your project panel, click on the sound effects, drag these two sound effects, and just drop it down in here. Now go ahead and reposition this a bit. You can go ahead and press L on the keyboard, and then go ahead and turn down the volume a bit. And then close it out, click away, and then press play. Or matter of fact, the volume is too low, so select both of them, press L, change this right back to 0 or like 1, and then press play. Let me change the quality back to quarter so I can play it faster. Again, feel free to adjust the volume settings for the vibrating and then the other vibration as well, to be sure to adjust the sound effects. And that's basically how you do this simple effect, okay? It's not that hard, you know what I'm saying? It's not complicated. You just got to learn how to do it. Now, here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to show you guys how to use the flare that we got from the, you know, basically the image flare. So what I want you to do is go ahead and turn off the flare layer, turn off the blur layers, and then go ahead and press Control S to basically save. What I want you to do is go ahead and drag the flare into your composition, right? So I'm going to drag it at the top. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and highlight. I'm going to select the two flare layers. I'm going to go ahead and hide these two layers. Now for the red flare layer, I'm going to change the color to red so that you know that it also is the red flare. I mean, it's also a red flare. What I want you to do is go ahead and minimize this a bit, zoom. I mean, reduce the scale. So by clicking on this layer, press S on the keyboard to bring up scale, and then just basically, in fact, let me start over. So what I want you to do next is I want you to come all the way over here and then go ahead and click on the red flare. Drag the red flare into our composition. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and press S on the keyboard and go ahead and reduce the scale a bit. Reposition this into one of our eyes. So let's start off with the left eye. So reduce the scale a bit, reposition it to our left eye. Now what you can even do is change the quality to full so you can see this a bit better, and reposition it right here on top of our eye. Now you can choose to leave the little extra flare, the glint, all that stuff around it. You can choose to leave that, but if you don't want to have that in your scene, just go ahead and click on the pen tool, click on the red flare, and then draw a rough mask around our glare. Press F on the keyboard and then go ahead and feather this out a bit more, so that maybe feather it out to around like 500, so that it kind of like fades away, so that the glare, it's not too much all the way outside. Once you've done that, click on the red flare, go ahead and parent this all the way to our right null, so it perfectly tracks with our right null. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and turn on enable motion blur. Now once you've done that, it's going to have a little bit of a tint of motion blur to it. Do the same thing, hit the red flare, hit Control D to duplicate, move this all the way over here into our second eye, right? Once you've done that, you can either choose to reduce the scale by pressing S, reduce the scale just a tad, you know what I'm saying, or change the value to 10 and position it right here. Repeat the same process. Go ahead and click on the parent tool, parent it into our left null. Now once you press play, and again, if the mask, you don't like the mask settings, you can always reduce the mask itself. Reduce it so you can get the look that you're looking for, if that makes sense. Feel free to play around with this as much as you can. Again, the whole point of editing is for you to play around with the look so that you can get the look that you desire, if that makes sense. Now once we've basically added this sort of like soft reddish glow to our eyes, what you can even do is go ahead and turn on the blur. and move this top blur on top of our red flare, right? So it's gonna have a certain look to it, right? So you can go ahead and click on this specific red flare, and then go ahead and press M, double click M, maybe increase the mask expansion a bit, and you know, you can press play, and it sort of like has the look. If maybe, right, my left eye right here is completely not covered in full-blown red, what you can go ahead and do is turn off the blur, click on this specific layer, triple click M, and then maybe increase the mask expansion just a tad. Or you can go ahead and press S and maybe increase the scale of this thing a bit more, so that it's a bit bigger than the other one. You know what I'm saying? So that it covers the eye completely. And then go ahead and turn on the blur layer. So now it looks like something like this. But I always highly recommend using optical flare. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys that technique, but I will let me turn off those layers. I will always highly recommend you guys using optical flare from Video Copilot, because the flare just looks more natural. It looks way better. So with that being said, this is exactly how you do the reverse flash, wiggle, and eye glow effect. In the next upcoming tutorials, I'll be showing you guys how to do the voice effects. I will be showing you guys how to do the run out of the frame effect. I'm going to show you guys how to do a lot of things. So be sure to stay tuned. Hope you guys love this tutorial, and thank you so much. Collins here, signing out. Bye bye.